Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with Ifbb bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Hello, everyone. Today we are speaking with one of Australia's best bikini pros. She is a 25-year-old who was qualified to hit the Arnold Classic Australia this year before it was canceled due to COVID, and she turned pro at the 2018 Australian Nationals and now works to develop her business as a sponsored athlete, prep, and posing coach. So welcome to the show, Shanae Dicicco. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm good. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Of course, I'm so excited to have you and finally an Aussie on here to represent. I know there's going to be a lot of happy competitors. And before we get into everything I've got planned, I got to ask you if there is something you do or think about, or maybe a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage.
Oh, yeah. I try to just take a moment and just remind that everything I've done leading up to this moment, and I get one chance, and I've worked so hard to get to this point. So it's more just times to myself, just breathe and just tell myself I can do this. I do get a little bit nervous going on stage, and it's something I need to work on. So yeah, that's probably one of my biggest weaknesses, actually. So I just need to really work on that confidence in myself.
Yeah, I remember you posted Muscle Contest Japan where you ended up in sixth place. You said you felt like your nerves took over you and that impacted your stage presence. So
Mhm.
what have you been doing to build that confidence on stage?
Well, actually, I probably should have worded better in my post. So before Muscle Contest Japan, I was actually feeling the most confident I've ever been to walk on stage. I was really excited to go on. And as I walked on into my very first part of my pose and my routine, I tripped a little bit, like my foot stumbled.
Ah,
And when that happened, it just threw me mentally. And then I was like, oh my God. And I just started to shake in my legs. I've never had that before. They were kind of just a bit like jelly. And then I just couldn't get out of my own head then. So for my whole individual routine, I was super nervous and shaky, which I think completely threw me off. But then once we got into comparisons, I definitely calmed down a bit and picked my confidence back up.
that's awesome. I think a lot of people have this misconception about pros, like, oh, they never get nervous, oh, they've never stumbled on stage, they don't have these problems. But I think it's cool that you're willing to openly talk about it and address it too,
Oh, of
because
course.
you're human and you even just said you get nervous. So what goes through your head when you're thinking of oh, I'm kind of nervous to get out there? Is it just, am I gonna trip? Is it like a, how am I gonna do, or is it just in general?
Well, I think for me, that was only my second pro show. And I just really, it's a different game when I'm stepping on stage with a lot of my idols and people I look up to and physics I really admire, and just wanting to that I can be up there with them, you know? So for me, it's just needing to get that confidence on stage. But it's different going from being an amateur, I guess, until turning into a pro and competing with these amazing people as well. So
Yeah, what was that like for you? Like when you did go pro and then you were making your pro debut and you were up there. I mean, you got qualified for, or I'm sorry, you were chosen and got invited to the Arnold. So, I mean, you're
Australia
doing
for my
some,
pro debut. Yeah.
yeah, you're doing something right. So what happened with that? Like, how did this unfold for you?
My Arnold debut, that was only a couple of months after I turned pro. So that was overwhelming for me. And I went in that with no expectation or anything. I had quite a different look back then. I found my physique was getting quite blocky. Felt like I looked a lot bigger than the other girls on stage. And I didn't do very well at all in that show. And I was really unhappy with how I looked up there. So after that, I decided I needed to go in a different direction. So then I looked into and I ended up investing in a new coach who was really specialized in pro bikini. So then we could really refine my physique to where it needed to be.
Yeah, I remember you were like commenting on how you started working with this new coach because you needed to like change the way you were presenting in the bikini division and bring down muscle in some areas and really just change your shape overall. And if people looked at your transformation, like it is amazing what you were able to accomplish. Yes, seriously.
Well, I think I was originally like when I first started training, I was just such a small, skinny girl. So for me, all I wanted was muscle, 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 and I just kept trying to grow. And then I got to a point where I feel like in some parts of my body, I was outgrowing the division a little bit. And I wasn't really focusing on like the overall shape too much. I was just trying to grow. And then it really took me to hit when I saw myself in the Arnold stage next to the other girls. I was like, oh no, something's got to change. So yeah, we really worked on just downsizing some areas for the Japan show, and just working on my shape, getting a smaller waist and my posing. Yeah.
What are some things that you did specifically to bring down like your muscle and what areas were you doing that in?
After the Arnold, I really stopped training my delts a lot because I've got naturally really dominant delts after when I started training. They were kind of like, felt really thick and big. And I ended up not training them at all actually from after the Arnold till I joined on with my new coach in October that year.
Wow.
But once I started back with him, he put shoulders back in twice a week. So we're bringing them back up a little bit again. But I'd already lost a fair bit of upper body size by then, which was good. And also bring down my quads a little bit and then just focus more on my glutes and hamstrings.
So were you at all like sad about having, because you worked really hard to
Oh,
build
yeah,
that?
I really was. It was when I first started. So I previously, up until this moment, my ex-partner had always coached me for a couple of years. And we kind of worked together as a team. So I always knew the process, what was going on, and I kind of had a bit of a say in it as well for myself. But then once I put all my trust in someone else's hand with a completely different process, and I could see myself getting a bit smaller overall, it was hard for me to see. I just felt, yeah, at the start I was unsure, but I just put all my trust in and followed the process. But overall, I can just see now I have such a better shape for the division, and I feel a lot more feminine, and I'm really happy with the direction we're going in now.
That's awesome. Like when you first started, you were really skinny. Like,
Yeah, I was around like so how tall am I? I'm 5 foot, so just over 5'7", and I was around 50 kilos when I started the gym. And for me, that's really, really light. So me now, I'm 63. So if that puts into perspective, I'm already,
wow.
and I'm relatively lean right now too. So
Yeah.
if that puts into perspective how small I was.
Definitely. No, it does. And like the photo you posted, I was like, oh my God, I want all that muscle because you
Oh,
seriously, you look amazing. And I
oh,
know
thank
that
you.
you're welcome. And the thing too that's crazy to me is like people will write off, like they'll see a photo of you or, other successful athletes and they'll be like, oh, that's just genetics. Like, oh, that's just how they were. But like for you, that really wasn't the case. So how were you training before? You said you were being trained by your ex-boyfriend and then you were, just really trying to build versus how you're training now.
I was training really like I was really training. I'm so sorry, Celeste. There's someone doing work above my building. Is
That's
that is that is that in the way?
I can hear it. We'll see how
All the
persistent.
time they do it now. You're kidding. Have they stopped?
Yeah, I don't
Okay,
hear it.
they might be stopped. Okay, so you can ask me that question again if you like, if you need
I
to.
I love it. Yeah, just like how was your training different when you first started compared to now?
When I first started training, I feel like I trained like a bodybuilder. So my ex was a bodybuilder, and I was so skinny. So he just told me, keep eating, even if you're full, keep eating. So
Wow.
for me, and I trained very like bro style training.
Mm-hmm.
I just went hard, and we just kept going. And I think it took I think at one stage when I was early stage before my first shows, I was pushing in 4.5, nearly 5,000 calories.
Wow.
um, to try go, and I felt sick. Like whether that was the right approach or not back then, but um, it ends up working. But at the time, my skinny little body just needed so much food to grow. And even now, when I prep, I have to be careful not to lose too much muscle, or I need to make sure I'm well fed. So yeah, back then it was just lots of food, and as soon as we'd stop prepping, I'd go straight into an off season and do the exact same approach. But I think we got to a stage where we kept doing that when I'd already put on muscle. And that's what was causing me to get quite blocky and too muscular in the wrong vision. And my waist was getting quite thick, I found. So that's what I found right now with how we're doing my off season now. We're keeping my calories just pretty moderate. They're not low, they're not super high. But I'm just finding my waist is staying a lot tighter and smaller than it ever has been in an off season.
Yeah, no, it's amazing to just see like how the years of work can have an impact years down the road as well, or like the smallest changes can make the biggest difference. And I personally regret like not starting my journey, like eating as much as I could and pushing as heavy as I could. Like I wish that I was more educated then, or had someone who was like a bodybuilder to guide me, because
Yeah, like everything it came. I think I'm lucky I got a bit more of a foundation underneath that now,
yeah.
so that I can work with. But look, at the same time now we're still trying to grow some certain areas again to bring them back up. So it's all a bit of trial and error. But we're really working on my lower body at the moment. So just bring glutes and hamstrings up more.
That's awesome. Is that like what the feedback was from your shows as well? Like, were the judges pointing out these areas where you could improve?
Yeah, my feedback in Japan at the time is we could have been a little bit tighter throughout the glutes and hamstrings. And I could have a bit more lower lat, Sandy said. So obviously that overall just improved my taper from the front.
Awesome. So what are your plans now? I know you had like, well, let me actually backtrack just a little bit, because you were prepping for the Arnold Australia, and then you had done that Muscle Conscious Japan show. You ended up in sixth place. That was only a few weeks before the Arnold was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then you found out it was canceled 1 week before. What happened when you found out, and then how did you go from there?
Well, we went really hard after Japan into the Arnold because my feedback was to come in a bit tighter. We just really were pumping cardio. We dropped the calories. I was feeling it. And then, yeah, it was like a week before we found out it was cancelled, which was really heartbreaking. And I think I'm very grateful I did Japan because I started prepping for 6 months for that show. So
Oh.
if I didn't get to compete, I would have been devastated. But just having, when I found out, I actually ended up rebounding pretty bad after that. Actually, I just couldn't. I just started indulging throughout that week after and just eating lots and lots of food, getting everything out of my system. But when I planned to go back to the gym, they closed because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So we really just missed out on yeah, it wasn't a good time. Everything closed, and then when the gyms closed, also I lost my job because everything was closed in the area. So I just kind of just ate because we couldn't go anywhere. We stayed at home, and yeah, it was, like I put on a lot of weight for me. I think I put on close to about 15 kilos
Mm-hmm.
in total. Like to everyone else, I didn't look like, you wouldn't think I looked, like I put on crazy amount of weight, but for me it was heavy and I felt super uncomfortable.
Right.
So that was a hard time, but I didn't mind some, but I think I learned a lot from it. So, um,
Yeah. What were some
yeah.
of the things that you did learn? Because that's like, I think most competitors, when they go through that, there's always some like lesson in that. So what was it
Oh,
that you took away?
of course. I feel like, and that was my very first bad rebound. And I think I just like, we do all this work and we put, this is our lifestyle, and just to feel like you've just gone and undid it all and to push your body back to a stage where you're not in a good position, like it's not going to do yourself any favors, one, for your future, if you want to be a successful competitor, and also for your health, your mental space, and how you're feeling about yourself. But I had to do a full prep to get out of that, to reverse back out of that. And that was the hardest I probably had to work. Actually, there was no comps in sight, which if you've seen my pictures, like over the last couple of months before now, it was
Mm-hmm.
me dieting, doing lots of cardio to get that weight back off.
Yeah,
To
I thought you were
finally,
in prep. Like, I thought
yeah,
you would
everyone did.
literally.
And I was still enjoying, like, every weekend I still ate out with my partner and friends. Like, I didn't like completely sacrifice like a normal prep, but
Uh-huh.
during the week I was 100% on diet, on cardio, and just enjoy dinner on the weekends. But yeah, so now I'm in a much comfortable more position, but I think I just learned how you can really also keep how I am now is a lot more maintainable for me is because I did reverse properly this time. I've built my calories up and I can just, now I can sit comfortably come to a body fat and be able to enjoy life, but still have that balance and still feel good about myself and feel comfortable.
Yeah, that's huge. And like I I personally I help that's like my thing is I help people with like post-show blues and reverse
Mm-hmm.
dieting and there's respect of like food relationship. And I think that a lot of competitors go through this and like you said, there's a lesson in it. There's something we take away from it. And like knowing how much work you put into it and you made it a lifestyle and then you faced a hardship that sent you into this thing that wasn't aligned with who you were and there was like that emotional disconnect too, not being able to do a show you'd been working so hard for and then
Mm-hmm.
you literally had to push yourself now through like an actual like prep phase with the exception of still enjoying a meal or two out or at home with your boyfriend on the
Mm-hmm.
weekend, but it takes a lot to come back from that. Like I've
It
been
does.
there.
It took a lot physically and mentally, but
Yes.
and I think at the start, because I got to a stage where I didn't like how I looked, it was hard to just imagine that off at the time. But once we got back into it, and then I could start seeing the weight drop, and I was getting back in shape. The gyms were opening, things were good. It just kicked my fire. Then that mentality came back, and I was switched on. I felt like myself again.
That's the
Um,
best feeling.
it is. I think if we do this, it's not just a prep; it's a lifestyle, and it's something I love. I love eating well. I love feeling good about myself. But I've also found a massive thing for me during this off season is I've got my plan for my coach, but I will swap up some things and stay within my calories and macros. Just be able to have a bit more flexibility during the week as well. Now I find that that's massive, not just feeling strict on 100% the same food, clean every single day. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's really key for me right now.
Totally. I've done the same thing and found like that's been my path of like least resistance yet, most success and sustainability is like being comfortable with making those swaps when I want to and not feeling so restrictive. And like when you are in a prep versus when you're in an improvement season, like how does your diet look different for you or maybe how you approach your diet?
Well, before I joined with my coach now, I'd never done a really strict off season or had a plan in place. Like I said, when it was with my ex-partner, we kind of just cruised through it and just like winged it
Mm-hmm.
before up until I turned pro. But since I've been working with Team Atlas, they had me on. I was dieting since I started with them actually into Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So from now, now we're in off season. I'm sitting around 2,500 calories at the moment. But it has been growing and increasing because I'm staying the same weight. I even dropped a little bit this week.
Wow.
So we're still trying to focus on growing, but we don't want to put on too much body fat. We just want to work on making small, lean gains to my physique, so we don't have to go so hard with the prep, and also not lose any muscle when we do diet down next.
Yes, seriously. So what is your plan from here then? Like, have you gotten any word about the Arnold Australia, or maybe like, do you have a plan in place for like competition
Oh,
season?
we have no idea, unfortunately, and it
Oh,
really really sucks. Like, because we've always had a show to work towards, or know when we're competing next and how long of an off season, but we're just unsure at this point. I don't even know if the Arnold Australia will be happening exactly, but they're doing a season A for our amateur competitors. It'll be
oh,
if our promoter Tony Doherty pops on a bikini pro show.
that's
And then
awesome.
for Australia, then that'll be the only thing that we may get if that is on, which fingers crossed.
God.
But if not until overseas borders open, unfortunately.
Oh my gosh, that must be so tough for you.
It
Like,
is, yeah.
especially seeing all of the Americans like getting to do lots
They
of
can
shows.
still go in and out. I'm so jealous. Yeah.
Man, and there was only like one show in Europe, I believe, this whole year.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. Or maybe two. But even for us, maybe if New Zealand borders open, then we
That's
can maybe, yeah, there could be a show over there potentially if they have a bikini pro show.
Wow, that's so disappointing. I've always thought about that too, like not even just from like this like health perspective or like this like worldwide virus thing, whatever. Like just in general, being an athlete in outside of America, I'm very curious what your process looks like or maybe what your journey was like. I'm not very familiar with the Australian road to pro, so to speak. So do you mind breaking down like what that process
Yeah,
looks
sure.
like?
So I think we give out, they give out maybe 2 or 3 bikini pro cards per year. So they'll have one at the Arnold Classic, and they'll have an all-female uh, bikini show in the middle of the year, and they'll have a Australian Nationals. So in Australia, depends on how the show works, but usually you just say you have to win your class, and then you'll go into the overall, and then the overall champion then will win their pro card out of one of those 3 shows.
Oh my gosh, it's a lot like Canada, very competitive.
Very, it is, and the standard's getting so amazing amongst the amateur competitors now. It's really great to see.
That's the benefit of it. And that's what I think America is lacking, honestly, is like, and not to say I'm not okay with it or happy about it. I think it's great that there's a lot of girls achieving their pro card. Obviously, it gives me more guests too. But like, what I think is interesting is when you look at the caliber of athletes coming out of places like Australia, of places like Canada, you're getting people like you, like Jen Dory, like Laura Lee, like top tier athletes. There's a reason why you guys are not just entering the IFBB Pro League, but entering it and doing well or setting a new standard. And I think that's because you guys are raising the standard, you're required to be the best among, you know, the up and coming best.
Oh, there's a lot, but I find even in the States, I like the look that they have in the States, and the Canada shows, they always bring really good caliber. So it's good to see.
Yeah,
And
it's
a lot of them
awesome.
step on a pro stage and do quite well straight away, which is exciting.
Definitely. I think like it's interesting though that it's so different across like different I guess continents we could say.
No, I agree.
Um yeah, like I'm about to do my first national show. I'm so excited.
Exciting. I think I saw you 5 weeks out, are you? Or 4?
Yeah, 4.5-ish now. So I'm very much looking
Exciting.
forward to it. Thank you. And
How are you
like,
feeling?
what?
How are you feeling?
I feel good. My coach is like I've maintained most of the year like really well. I've stayed on top of everything and like I've been prepping for so long now. I feel like it's more so just my lifestyle and
Yeah,
I
you just get used, you just adjust, and yeah, it becomes a
yes,
lot more maintainable.
exactly. So I'm feeling good and I'm excited and I think I'm curious like how many competitors usually compete in Australia. Like is bodybuilding well known there? Like or is it a growing industry?
Yeah, no, it's pretty big here actually. I feel like our shows are getting bigger and bigger each year, and um, yeah, actually, to me, I feel like it's quite well known. Like, there's quite a, it's like same thing. The fitness industry is like it's big, but it's also small,
Yeah.
and everyone knows each other.
So
Um,
true.
yeah, so but no, it is quite, and it's growing. And especially bikini is a huge division in Australia. It's very popular.
Love that. That's awesome. And when you are like planning on competing in the IFBB Pro League, what are your ultimate goals?
Of course, my ultimate goal will be Olympia, and I
Yeah.
won't stop till we get there. So I can't wait till we can just give it a good crack once the borders open. If there's any way around it, I will try compete next year. If maybe the rules aren't so strict on the quarantining and how that's going to work, we don't know yet. But yeah, ultimate goal is the Olympia.
That's awesome. So getting to the Olympia stage obviously is the main goal for so many
It's
pros.
every pro, we all want to be there. So just going to keep working and So hopefully one day I'll be on there.
Absolutely, no doubt. And do you feel like there's a mindset to it or something, like what are you doing every day? Like what are your daily habits or consistent efforts that you think will get you there?
Well, for me, it's what I'm doing right now. The way I'm following my diet now and my training in off season, it's just, and I'm making these small changes every day and working towards it. To look for my goals, like right now, because there's no shows in sight potentially for quite a long time for us here in Australia. I could just not be, strict on diet or be following what I am, but I know what I want and I'm going to keep working towards it. So for me, my mindset is just knowing what I want right now and just going to keep working towards it every single day.
That is such a good point. Like knowing there's not an immediate like show in the future. And I think so many people get caught up in the next show, the next goal. And yet you're focusing on the lifestyle and your ultimate vision for yourself. And obviously that includes family and your boyfriend and work. You said your job was even stopped. So what have you been doing to manage through that?
Well, during when the COVID period ended up starting at I decided I really wanted, I didn't initially really work in the fitness industry. But then I decided that's absolutely what I want to do. I put it off for a little bit because I was deciding if I wanted to have something separate to my passion or if I wanted to, delve in. But over this time, it really showed me that's what I want to do. So I started my PT course and I'll be looking at doing, can't wait to get that done. And move into that and be taking on coaching clients soon. So that's what I've been really working on. But in the meantime, I'm just managing athletes and ambassadors for a company. So I just do watch their social medias and give them all with their content and just keep on track of them. And yeah, I manage them at the moment.
Wow, that's amazing. How did you get into that?
So I was the sales rep for this company. And when the gyms closed, I couldn't really be doing my job because there was no gyms open. So I ended up moving on and taking over all the athletes and ambassadors for the company and managing them and just giving them a bit more guidance and interacting with them more so we could create a really solid team. And that's been really good.
That's awesome. I love that. Like because obviously you have experience, you have a lot of sponsors,
Well, this is one of my sponsors as well. So I've been sponsored by them for a few years now. So it's really cool to go work for them.
Oh my God, I love that. That is super cool. It just sounds like it's very aligned and was a natural fit.
It's good. And they're really supportive of me working to that until I get to where I want to be and can finally start my PT business as well.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. You're so growth minded.
Oh, I'm excited. Look, it took a long time. I got pretty stuck for a while. I've done lots. I've tried lots of things, failed things. So it's just, but now it just really feels like this is where I need to be and where I want to be.
What were some of the things you had tried before?
Before I got into competing, so I'm from a different part in Australia. It was a bit more of a smaller town. But then I moved to Sydney because I got into acting school.
Oh.
I did my 2-year diploma of screen acting. So my goal was to be an actress, and I also started DJing in that time too. So I was a bit more creative. I was acting and DJing. That's what I was doing for a couple of years. But during that time when I was studying, I started competing, but it was more just meant to be a hobby and for fun. But I started doing really well, and I started winning shows, and then I just became addicted to it. And then from then I found once I turned pro and my goals changed and I knew that's what I wanted to do, and they became new dreams. And I just started pushing those other ones to the side. But things like acting and DJing, they need your full attention as well. It was hard being in all different fields, I found.
Yeah.
I put all my energy and focus into one.
Do you ever miss that?
I do. I really do. But you need to be to be acting, you need to be really active. You need to be making self-tapes. You need to be auditioning. You need to be putting yourself out there and doing courses nonstop. You need to be really, really active. And as well, the way I started to look, getting a bit more muscular, it wasn't ideal for them. I actually got pulled aside at acting school for it. Yeah.
Really? What did they say?
My shoulders. I started bleeding. Yeah, they said that like that look, because as an actor they want you to be really castable and fit different, be able to fit different all kinds of areas. But if I look kind of a bit too muscular to them, that really yeah, it doesn't give me as much opportunity, they were saying. So yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. So you obviously heard that and then you were like more
Like,
drawn to competing.
yeah, because I was like, I don't want to change how I look, and I love how, like, I love what I'm doing with my physique, and it's made me feel more confident than ever. Than so, and I don't ever want to give that up. So
Wow, that's amazing. Actually, like confidence is I think a huge deal just in general in life. And have you noticed a change in the way you approach life or relationships since committing to
oh,
bodybuilding?
everything, absolutely. Like I was someone, I wouldn't even wear shorts or a skirt or a dress that showed my legs. I always wore pants or jumpsuits. In summer, I'd wear like baggy jeany pants. I wouldn't show my legs. Um, and even in relationships as well, like feeling confident, feeling sexy, having all that is different now that my physique has changed and I've grown something I'm proud of. So,
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that you said that because I feel like so much of it comes down to our actions and our behaviors and like what feels good for us. And obviously like your lifestyle has changed. So what were the things that you were doing when you were feeling less confident in yourself or like you had to hide? Like what was it that like was out of alignment or that you didn't like?
I didn't like how I looked. I felt self-conscious. I didn't feel like I had shape. I didn't feel feminine. And it just made me, felt underdeveloped, and I just felt like a little baby giraffe. Like
Oh my God.
I didn't feel sexy at all. I was always kind of like more of a tomboy out of my friends at the time when I was younger. I always felt like I was the ugly friend. that's
Wow.
that's how I felt. I was just like, I felt like, and like, my friends just had natural curvy bodies, and I was like, why can't I look like that? Or why don't I have body like that? So yeah, it took me a long time to even get confident. Even now when I'm hard on myself, I just have to remember like the Shanae years ago would have died to look how I look now. So it just got to be easier on myself and be proud of how far I've come.
Oh my gosh, seriously, that's so crazy because, like obviously, like from an outsider looking in, I'm like, I can't even imagine you ever feeling that way or,
Well, it doesn't even feel like it was long ago though, Jen. Like I still, sometimes I still feel like that girl like at times, it doesn't feel like,
mm,
yeah, that's crazy. I remember it so clearly. Like, and people thought I had eating disorders or something because I was so skinny, and I was fine. I don't know, it's just my genetics. I just wasn't
yeah.
eating properly or training.
And then you started eating tons and lifting really heavy and pushing yourself
Yeah.
in the gym, like
I would just
developing.
stand, I might eat something. Oh, I know, I was probably younger, eating cereal for breakfast, wouldn't eat for hours or half the day. And I'd go get a sausage roll, something like that. And then maybe with friends, you might eat pizza or something for dinner. So it was just unhealthy, but just random foods that had not much nutritional benefit. And yeah, and drinking on the weekends when I was younger. So all that, yeah, just didn't do me any favors.
What would you say to someone who's like living like that or maybe experiencing what you experienced and then feels like they can't change it, like they're just doomed? Like how could you or how would you encourage someone in that position?
Oh, well, if they want it, they absolutely can change it, but it just depends on their goals and how bad they want it. If
Mm,
it's something you really set on changing, you absolutely can. It's just, yeah, it's really a matter of mindset. If you don't want to change, you won't. You won't. You won't put
true.
in extra food. There's things like, I remember time sitting up time, I was forcing food down my throat. Like I wasn't hungry. And even to this day now, I'd still rather be hungry than force feed.
Yeah.
I prefer to prep more sometimes than like when I used to shove so much food down my throat. Like it was sickening. Not that even now I'd recommend now that that's the way to go about it, but that's just what I did when I
Right.
was younger. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was like your frame of reference and your guidance at that point. And now, like, you've learned so much. And you mentioned sometimes you still struggle a little bit with like the confidence or like with where you're at. And one of our listeners actually submitted a question. They wanted to know if you ever feel pressure to maintain a beautiful look, a beautiful physique year round for bikini and within the fitness industry as a whole, or for sponsors?
Really not at all. I actually really sometimes like my body a little bit curvier.
Mhm.
I like a bit of fat on my legs and my butt and just feeling a bit more feminine, I guess. But right now I'm doing all this and maintaining the way I am because, well, it's for my goals. You know, I
Mhm.
want to be able, when this time comes, I want to just be ready to go and I don't want to be spending trying to get all this extra body fat off me. So no, I'm pretty comfortable with my body at most stages. That stage after my last show when I rebounded, that was because I've never been had that kind of weight on me, but that was because I ate more and silly than I ever have, and I was just being like an asshole with food. Like, but I've never been like that in my life. So, usual me, if I was to go and put on, like, even get up, so I'm like 63 now. Even me at 68, I'd be fine with that. Like, for example,
Yeah.
but if I was like still thick and curving, like, yeah, and we're just trying to really focus on keeping my waist small as well. And a massive thing for me I've noticed is when I eat a lot of food, it all goes straight to my stomach. Like even in my waist, I feel like it's always expanded.
Yeah.
So I'm finding how we're doing now. It's why I've got the tightest waist I've ever had in an off season.
What's the difference? Is it the calorie intake, or is it the types of food, or like?
Calorie intake sometimes,
Mm.
yeah. Like even though even small, even like it's when we carb me up for shows, we have to be careful because everything goes straight to my stomach. But I think over time, if I'm eating a lot of food and I'm always bloated and always things like that, I have to be careful. But if I look at any old pictures in my off seasons previously, my waist was so much thicker than it is now. But I'm not
Wow.
hungry or anything right now. Like I don't feel like I'm struggling to maintain what I'm at. So I don't feel like I'm, yeah, pushing myself in off season to maintain, a certain image or anything like that. But yeah, I also do believe that that is my lifestyle now, and I genuinely love to eat this way. But I still eat
Yeah.
out. I'm not crazy strict. Like I still enjoy time with my partner. We just went away on the weekend. We enjoyed cheese platters and wine. Like I'm still human.
That's awesome. I love that you can be that example too and show that like you can live that way. You can enjoy those things. It doesn't have to turn into like a guilt fest or a binge fest or anything like that. It
No.
can just be a lifestyle choice.
And I'm so if I go and enjoy a couple of drinks one night, I'm a bit off it for a while after that anyway. Like I don't like anything that really interrupts my training. So I don't want to do anything that gets me hungover or feeling sick or anything. Like I still want to be able to sleep well, eat well, and train. So
Yeah, the things that you love. And your
yeah,
boyfriend and you just celebrated your birthday and you got
yeah,
to enjoy the weekend, and he's a bodybuilder too, right?
yeah. He's just done his first show, and he wants to keep competing. He's only young too, so he loves it.
That's awesome. Does
And
it
he's so into it, and he's really dedicated and passionate too. So it helps having that by my side every day. So
That's what I was wondering. I was like, I wonder how that like dynamic is to have you both like getting after it. And I mean, do you guys go to the gym and train together? Do you like meal prep together?
well, we do actually train together a lot recently. We probably train together like 3 or 4 days a week, and he really pushes me. So
That's
it
awesome.
it really helps. And he's been so dedicated since he was 15. Eating clean. It's only more recently he's developed having a bit more balance himself. Like he used to be so strict. So it just really helps with both of us. So just like we're on the same page, which is awesome. But yeah, we don't really need to prep together too much. We get all our meals made. We have the same sponsor, which is really helpful. But yeah, we train together, we eat together. It's good.
That's awesome. Well, I love to hear that, and I just think like your journey is really cool, and you're such a positive example for other people to see that you can not only like go through what you did a long time ago with the confidence issues and overcome that with the self-discipline of committing to bodybuilding and the goal that you wanted, but now that's applying moving forward, and you overcame a hardship after a show you were really excited about got canceled, and now you're working for your feedback. You've developed this lifestyle. And with everything we've covered today, I was curious if you could leave us with your best advice. So like your best advice for someone who's never competed before but wants to compete, and then your best advice for someone who is on their road to pro.
Well, you can do it. If you believe in yourself, you can do it. Like, there's nothing stopping you at all. Like, don't have self-doubts. Just invest in a good coach. Surround yourself with people that believe in you, like-minded people who will support you, and you can do it.
Love that. Thank you so much. And I would love if everyone would be able to reach out to you. So can you share with them how they could do that?
My Instagram is Dicicco, NAEDICICO. And they, you feel free to contact me, DM me, anything. I love to chat and I love making new friends. So
Yes, you're so sweet. And I appreciate you taking the time. And I'm going to make sure I put your Instagram handle in the show notes page. And I think even by the time this launches, maybe you'll be coaching too, which would be so awesome to just have you as a resource for people.
Yeah, of course. I'm so excited.
Oh, well, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. And to everyone listening, you can always find the notes at celestial.fit/podcast. Shanae will have her own categories, so you can always find that in the category section, whether that's at the very bottom of your mobile device or on the side of your desktop. Really appreciate when you guys tag the athletes. It's awesome to see, showing them support, and then also, of course, sharing with your teammates, your friends. It goes a long way, doesn't go unnoticed, and means a lot. So thank you guys again for tuning in. And Shanae, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever in the world where you're listening to this episode.